Hi, Peekers. Welcome back. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling,
tea spilling,
and all the latest book talk drama that you have been missing out on.
Okay, so we are still on our Assassin's Blade little journey, and this is our last book of this book, or last part of this book. So it's Assassin and the Empire. And we've already told you guys before, you guys know the routine. If you don't want spoilers, you're going to get it if you continue on. But if you don't care about spoilers, let's just keep on keeping on and listen to the story that we've got to tell. There is a little bit of warning, too, in this one. There's going to be talk of, like, pretty grotesque scenes, and it could be a little triggering. So if you're not ready for that, don't listen.
Very gory, a little bit of torture-esque. So... yeah, if you're still here, you've been warned. You have been warned. We'll give you a little heads up trigger before we start talking about the details in the actual story so you can skip through a little bit if you don't want to hear that part.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we are going to be meeting Jane and Farron, which are the crime lords, essentially, of Rifthold. And they are part of, like, kind of facilitating these crimes that go on underground, and that's how they pull in money. And they're basically like a mafia is kind of how I imagine it. Jane is the head leader. Farron is his sadistic second. And Farron in particular is truly a sadist. Like, he loves torture. He loves to kill people. He loves blood. Really just all the gross things and all the bad guy stuff.
Yeah, like in the most grotesque ways, which we will talk about it. But yeah, he's
not cool.
Something.
He's scary.
He's something.
I'm scared of him. Like,
I'm really
Arabin is the bad guy.
And
I'm really
I'm
scared. No, but Arabin is like the bad guy, you know, but he's just like an annoying person that you actually hate. But Farron and Jane, they scare me.
Yeah,
like I would be scared.
Delight in pain and torture.
Okay, so where we left off in the last story, Selena walks out of Arabin's assassin guild area, and she's like, don't talk to me anymore. I'm not working for you, neither is Sam, and we don't want any contact with you ever again. Like, we're done. We're crossing our T's and we're dotting our I's and we're getting out of here. Her and Sam end up staying together, and they are hanging out in their very first apartment for a couple of months. I think it's like a month or two that they're just cruising along. And they're definitely moving forward with their relationship, but pretty slow. Like, it's been very apparent, like, Selena is kissing and doing, like, things with Sam, but she hasn't done the deed with Sam.
No deed yet. She's waiting.
She's a respectable lady, which, honestly, props to her.
I was going to say, if you can hold out for a couple months living with someone, that's
living
impressive.
With them is so different. Yeah. So that's, tea.
Also, if you want to do it on the first night, we're here for it.
We support it.
We're not judging
It's
you.
your body, your choice.
But this is very, like, Renaissance time. This is very, classy, respectable, upstanding citizen time. And so she's just being a respectable lady, waiting for the time that feels right for her. But by no means are we saying that is the only way to be respectable.
Honestly, we're pretty disrespectful to ourselves.
We're
not ones to talk.
We're here for a good time, says the married woman.
Right. So they are together, and Sam has already said he loves Selena a couple of times, but Selena has not said it back. But you can tell she feels so strongly about him. I find that pretty interesting because she holds out on that word. Like, that is a very near and dear word to her, it sounds like. As we get through this story a little bit more, we'll hear it. And so anyway, since they've been out of the keep, they also haven't been getting jobs as regularly as they would have if they were living in the keep.
It sounds like more like Arabin was the one to arrange their jobs, like their assassin jobs. He was the one that kind of
found everything
for them.
So they have been kind of roughing it, let's just say that. And we all know Selena is a materialistic queen. She loves to decorate she's been decorating her apartment. She's still shopping. She's getting books. She's like doing all the shopping, the stuff, like as if she were still making money. And essentially to make ends meet, because they don't have money, Sam has been going to the vaults to fight and make money because he's a trained assassin. It's like easy money for him. No big deal. So that's where he's been going. And that's pretty much been the source of like their arguments, if they have had any arguments, because Selena's like, these people are sketchy and scary. Like, I don't want you to be anywhere near them. Like, we are out of the Assassin's Guild. Like, we should just hang out here. So she's like, we literally aren't there anymore. Let's just keep it low. Let's just do life and just be us. And Sam is like, that sounds like a great idea, but realistically, we can't do that unless we officially leave the guild. Like, we have to tell Arabin that we're officially out, and then we can go do our thing. So then they make this idea. They're like, okay, maybe we go tell him we're done, and we go start a new life somewhere. Like, we leave and we can go start over somewhere.
It sounds like they almost like leaving a job, like a contract job. So like they've left their home, they've paid off their debts, but like they're still technically employed by Arabin as like their contract job. So they like want to leave on good terms. They don't want to be blacklisted. Right. They don't want to be followed. They don't want to be hunted down.
And that's the biggest thing too, is like leaving on bad terms with the assassins. It's like, that's just dangerous. Like, if you end off on bad terms. So it's like better just to nip it in the butt. So they make this agreement. They're like, fine, let's get ready to get out of here. Let's go tell Arabin. They go to the guild and they tell him that they're leaving the Assassin's Guild. Arabin is like, well, I mean, obviously you guys can leave, of course, go for it. But you guys are going to have to pay me for the losses that I'm going to have for you guys not being here anymore, because you're my top 2 assassins. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to make a big dent in our income, essentially, which is T, because he's not been giving them any contracts. So what does it matter to him?
Right.
But anyways, so he's like giving them this absurd number that they need to agree to pay him off, to promise that he's not going to stalk them and like harass them when they leave.
And what do you know? It happens to be the exact number that is in Selena's bank account. Her entire life savings, all she has left.
Yeah, and so Selena's just like, of course, this is what he's doing. And she just agrees to it because she's like, there's no arguing with it. If anything, he's going to make it higher and more unreasonable. So let's just say yes, and just so that way we can say yes. Like, it's done.
Just get out of it.
And she gives it to him. She pays him all the money, and now they're broke. And Sam is livid. He's like, I cannot believe you just did that. Like, why on earth would you do that? Like, now we literally are going to have to kill people again if we're going to leave because we have no money to fall back on. And so Selena and him have to think about, like, what are we going to do? He's like, well, I'm going to go back to the vaults until we can find another contract to do. And so that's what they're doing right now. She's kind of hanging around doing her own thing, and she's like trying to figure out how we're going to get out of here. Sam comes back home after one night, and he's like, this anonymous contractor just came up to me with like a really good deal. She's like, okay, spill, what is it? He's like, okay, but you can't freak out. It's a contract to kill Farron and Jane. And she's like, of course it is.
You're an idiot.
Of course it is. Of course it's these guys.
The most famous, horrible crime lords in all of Adderley.
She's like, do you know how many assassin attempts have tried to be done on these people? And they are so good, and they will torture us if we even slightly mess up and don't hit the mark. So she's freaking out. She's like, let me think on this. Like, the money's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a great payday, but I'm scared.
I'm scared.
I'm a scared little girl.
Just a girl.
So she's not taking it lightly, and they're thinking on it. And they decide eventually that they are going to do it. Like, that's really their only way of getting out of this place. So they develop this plan, and they think it would be good to kind of divide and conquer. Take out Farron first, so that way it's kind of causing chaos that Jane lost his second, and, like, everybody's kind of stressed out and, like, panicking. And then Selena's going to go in and kill Jane, because it would be an easier target that way to split it up. So Sam is out trying to, like, map out Farron's like days and routines and all that good stuff so he can get a good idea of how he's going to attack him. And while Sam is out doing all of the scouts, Selena's out trying to gather their goods, get everything in order, packing, getting things straightened away, getting ready for her own attack and whatnot. Somehow, Arabin finds out about their contract, and he shows up in their apartment, which is T because she doesn't tell Arabin where she lives. He just finds out, of course.
Not just at the apartment,
inside of it, yeah.
When she's coming home, he's just sitting on her couch waiting for her.
Yeah. And then he's like, I heard about this contract you guys got. I think that's so dumb and so dangerous of you to do. I don't think you should do that. And also, have you even told Sam your whole story? Like, have you told him who you really are and where you come from and, like, all these things? Do you think he would actually want to dedicate his whole life to you if he knew all of this stuff? And so she's like, you know what? It's not about you. Like, get out of our business. We told you we're done with you. You should literally not even be talking to us. Get out. And so before Arabin leaves, he has to do a little more dash of manipulation. And he stops at the door and he's like, listen, I got to tell you one more time that I am just so sorry. I can't believe that I hit you, and, you know, I was just really just scared about losing you and having you choose Sam over me, and I love you.
Boo! I
Tomato.
I cannot express how much I hate this man. He is the epitome of gaslighter, manipulator, like everything he can do to manipulate her to whatever his will is, and also just like upstage her. Like the slaves thing, like showing her like, I can make you do whatever I want. And he'll say anything to have the upper hand and to make her feel small or to make her do whatever.
He's a psycho.
He's disgusting.
And I don't know if he knows that. Do you think he knows that he's kind of crazy?
I think he's a narcissist, and I think he thinks he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Because it's just like, how do you say these things without hearing, like, how obviously you're manipulating someone? Like, it's so obvious. And he's like full-heartedly, like, he's so calculated.
He is like the epitome of like a psychotic narcissist.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't think he has any genuine feelings for anyone. Yeah. I think he only wants his power to have the upper hand.
He wants to be the top guy. Boo. So anyways, obviously you can see how much it ruffles our feathers talking about Arabin. So Selena is pretty ruffled after this visit, and she is kind of like moping around, pouting, just not really herself. And Sam eventually is like, what's happened? Like, you're not acting right. Like, something must have happened. What's going on? And so she's like, I gotta tell him, like, the secret. Like, I don't know if I can trust him. Like, do I tell him everything? So she asks Sam first. She's like, do you have any secrets? What are your secrets? And he's like, my only secret in life was holding how much I loved you.
That's so precious.
And she's like, oh, but she doesn't tell him her secret. She just tells him that she's scared. She's a coward, essentially. And he's like, oh, don't say that. And he's like, if it makes you feel any better, I'll tell you something silly. She's like, what? And he's like, whenever I get scared, I do this thing where I stand up really tall and proud and I say, I am Sam Cortland and I will not be afraid.
Oh, that's just like the most wholesome thing ever. He's just painted as like the most wholesome, precious little being.
He is. And it's just, God, I love him so much. And it's like, it seems so silly. Like, in real life, if that were to happen, you'd be like, pff. But like in this moment, they're having such a heart-to-heart that it is so wholesome and so meaningful. Like that honesty, because they're like assassins. They're trained to be cutthroat killers. Like, no, they would never get scared, but obviously they're human too. So it's
and they're so young. They're like barely adults. Mm-hmm. Another part that we glossed over a little bit is whenever Selena had kind of decided not to tell Sam her secret. Like, she was like, I can't tell you right now. He was like, listen, Arabin came to me today, cornered me on the street or whatever, and he was trying to tell me all this stuff about you. Like, basically, like, telling me to ask you where you came from and, like, what happened, tell you, like, your secrets and stuff like that. And she, of course, had this, like, moment of panic because she didn't want to tell him. And he was like, I just want to, like, assure you, you'll tell me when you're ready. I'm not concerned about it. Like, I know you. I know your heart. He was like, whatever you don't feel comfortable telling me right now, you will one day. Which
I love him.
Precious.
He's such a good, mature, level-headed king.
He is.
Love him.
He is.
Snaps.
Hats off to Sam Cortland. So,
anyways, okay, so that night goes by and the night of the final hit comes. So this is their last hurrah. They're getting their money and they're going to get out of here. Sam is on his way to go scout out Farron while Selena is back home. She's packing their things because the plan is after they do these hits, it's going to be chaos because these guys are huge. It's not like a small hit. So they're trying to dip out like ASAP. Mm-hmm. So she's at home packing, getting things ready. Sam's supposed to return like at midnight or something like that. So that's the plan, is she's just waiting for that whole thing to go down. But Selena being Selena, she's like, I can't just like let this go. I got to go check on him, make sure he's fine. So she dips out a couple of times throughout the night to see if she can find him. She's not seeing any like warning signs or like, what's the word?
Like signs of like something crazy going on, or like there's something big happening.
Yeah. So she's like, okay, so maybe he did it and he's just hiding and he's trying to keep a low profile because wherever it happened, maybe they're like following him or something. Yeah.
And she's also thinking like he should have been home hours ago, but like he doesn't need me trailing him. He doesn't need me like doing all this stuff. He's like, she's like, I just wanted to check and make sure like nothing crazy bad happened. But like, she's like progressively getting more and more concerned, more and more worried. She keeps trying to like tell herself like, no, he's fine. He's trained. He is an assassin. He's excellent at what he does. And it just continues hour by hour, passing and passing and passing.
And eventually it's like the next day. It's the next afternoon. And she's out still searching for him. And she goes back praying that he's like come back there, and he's just sitting in there. The door's open. So she's like, okay, someone's in there. Maybe it's him. She runs up and it's Arabin. And immediately she knows it's not good. Like, he's got this face, and she knows Sam is not coming back.
Oh, our precious Sam.
I'm like getting chills. Like, every time I think about it, it just makes me so sad, because really the whole reason why Sam went after Farron is to protect Selena from the fate that he just got, essentially.
And he also, like, it's also so frustrating that, like, she came back to, like, the person she least wanted to see.
Oh, gosh.
Like, the person she was so angry at and, like, just absolutely hate. The only reason that they were in this situation is because of Arabin.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there on his couch. Like, he's, of course, looking apologetic, horrible.
Like, really sad.
Somber, you know, all the things. But, like, I just can't imagine, like, the person you blame for even being in this situation is the one that tells you that something horrible's happened.
Yeah. So he tells her, and this is kind of where things get a little more graphic, but he tells her what happens. And, like, in response to this assassination attempt, they sent a message back to Ardalan's assassin, and they thought that Sam still lived there at the guild or the keep. And so they left Sam's dead, like, mutilated, tortured body on their doorsteps. And he was like, yeah, this was a message in response to the attempt that you guys tried to do. And Sam was, poor baby, he was so upsettingly brutalized, tortured. And for how long, who knows? I don't know. But basically, when Selena gets back to the keep to see his body, because she doesn't believe Arabin, she's like, I won't believe this until I see his body. She gets back to the keep, and he is on the little bed, and his fingers were broken. His skin was burned. He had deep cuts throughout his body. His eyes were pulled out.
Oh,
he smelled like the poison that causes paralyzing in people.
Coriella is what they call it in the book.
And so, gosh, she was just a mess. She broke down. She got onto the bed with him and, like, just snuggled up to him, his poor mutilated body.
Me wanna cry.
It was really sad. Like, this was her first, like, deep feelings since her family probably died.
And they were planning on doing this one job and then running away together. And she's had so much heartbreak. Like, she has nothing and no one in this world.
All she wants
Sam
is
was
just,
like her person.
She saw so much possibility, like, of more out of life, just like a normal life.
And not only that, it was Sam. Like, he is like the embodiment of, like, a wonderful, caring person. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine, for one, seeing a person you love like that, and then for two, seeing someone that absolutely did not deserve that.
Yeah. So obviously she gets, like, shook, and she's going into, like, a daze of shock where she's just kind of there. She gets carried up to her old room, and she's just kind of in and out of consciousness a little bit, just, like, not really fully believing everything that's happened, but, like, also understanding exactly what's happened. It's just, I can't even imagine what she's going through. But she's, like, while she's in her room, she's hearing the other assassins of the guild outside saying, yeah, Arabin's pretty pissed about this. Like, we've got to do he wants us to do a retaliation attack on this group, and we're going to go tonight. Like, we're not going to give them a second. So Selena's like, hold the fuck up, because she actually gave an oath in the moon to kill anybody who ever if anybody were to harm Sam, she was going to kill them, which I thought was a different way of her saying, I love you, in her own way. But she made an oath to the room, and she's like, okay, no one's going to kill these people except for me. I'm going to kill them. Like, they took the one person in my world that I love. I'm going to take everything from them. So she's on a mission. She's like, that. I'm not waiting for them to do that. They can meet me there. So she jumps out. She knows, like, they're obviously outside of her room. She goes outside of her window, and she's sneaking out, and only to get caught by freaking Wesley. Wesley stops her, and he's like, whoa, don't go do this. And she's like, bah, knocks him immediately out.
And if you guys don't remember who Wesley is, he's another assassin in the guild, but he's like Arabin's like right-hand man, like always there to defend him, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, stop. He's like, and then he's like, Selena, don't you know this is a blah, blah, blah. And then she knocks him out.
She's like, I can't.
I can't listen to you.
I gotta go. And so she runs. She continues running to the crime lords' houses and whatnot. She gets onto these roofs, and she's like, I just gotta get in there. That's all I know. I'm not going in through the front door, but I know there's an open window I can try to get into. So she's like on the third floor of this building, this other building that she's like scoping out. And then she sees down onto the second floor of the crime lord's house So she has to do like a little running jump into this window to get in because it's been left open. After they've been scouting it, they know that this window's been open like all week. So she jumps in through this window, ready to go crazy on people. And wouldn't you know it, they were all there waiting. She has been set up. And she is like, well, I'm here. I'm still going to go swinging.
I'm going to go out trying.
So she is taking them down. Honestly, it's kind of badass. Like, she's in a rage. She's killing the guards right and left. Because it's the guards and it's Farron and Jane. Mm-hmm. So they're all there. And so she's just killing everybody right and left. In the middle of her killing, she looks up and she throws her dagger, slices Jane's throat. He's dead immediately. And then that's when some fumes start to sneak in.
And in the corner of her eye, she sees Farron, the sadistic bastard who she's assuming is the one that killed Sam because of how he was killed. Farron is the one that's absolutely sadistic, loves pain, loves torture. She sees him put on this like gas mask. And then as the fumes go into the room, she smells what she smelled on Sam's body, the Goriella.
And it basically starts to paralyze her slowly. And she's trying to kill people while she can, but eventually it takes over and she gets knocked down. And the soldiers are like beating the shit out of her too. Like they are like, which is so pathetic, honestly. Like you're going to beat her while she's down. Like she's down. She's paralyzed.
She's out. It's good.
Like she's chill down. Out.
Yeah.
And so while she's down, she wakes back up and Farron is like leaning over her, like caressing her and slowly touching her, smiling at her. Ew.
That actually sends like chills down my spine. Ooh.
It's so gross. Yeah, but he's basically like, thank you so much. Like you did exactly what I wanted you to do. Of course she did. I knew that was coming. Honestly, I was reading that. I was like, he is going to set her up so that way he can be the crime lord. Yeah, that's how I felt.
I thought so too, but like, I feel like we'll get more into it, but there's a lot of factors in play that like, how could he have set that up all by himself? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's some things. Yeah. We'll get into it.
So anyways, he's like, yeah, thank you for doing exactly what I wanted. Now I'm going to actually use you as a bargaining chip. I'm going to send you to the king so that way he turns a blind eye on my business.
And if you guys remember in the beginning of the book, if she gets sent to the king, to the royal dungeons, there's virtually no chance that she can escape. That's where Ben, the person that initially was killed in the beginning of the story, died. Mm-hmm. And basically they were like, until you dispose of his body, you're not getting him back, basically. Yeah. Like, he's not coming out alive.
Right. So she is like, excellent. This is great news. The one person I'm actually terrified of, like the king, every time she mentions the king, all she thinks of is fear. Like she's a small girl. She's like, that's the one person she does not want to see. Like, obviously she doesn't want to see Arabin. She hates him. But the king terrifies her.
He destroyed her family. He destroyed her home. Like he destroyed everything that she was prior to her, like, being found at the river. Yeah. Like we'll get more into that like as the books go on, but like she is absolutely horrified of the king. Like the one thing that she's actually afraid of.
So she's like, whatever. Like at this point, Sam's dead. I've been caught. I've been beat the fuck up. And now they're going to send me to the king. She's counting it out. Like she's tapping out. She's like, it is what it is. And she's getting there. She's sitting in this room waiting for the king to show up. The king comes in. He's this huge, like, ominous present. Very scary. And very scary. And she is basically refusing to talk. She's like, I know they're going to kill me. Like, it is what it is. I'm just like, they can say what they want and let their story be whatever they want. Like, she's like, I really don't care anymore. Like, everything is useless and pointless now. And at the end of it, after she's, like, not been talking at all, the king is like, well, do you have any final words? And she's like, yeah, make it quick. She's, like, hoping that it's a quick death. She's like, yeah, I'm ready to die. Just go ahead and call it a quick one. And the king is like, that's so funny. Actually, no, we won't be killing you like that. Actually, we want to keep you alive as long as possible in the salt mines.
And I think he did that to spite her, honestly. Like, he's like, you know what? Since you want it quick, we'll make it as long as physically possible, as torturous and long as possible.
So he's like, you're going to Endeavor, is that what it's called? Endovier, which is the northern part of this continent and pretty close to where she's from originally, too. But it's like a place that is known as one of the worst slave camps. Like, people don't live there longer than a month, usually.
Yeah, you go there to die, basically. Yeah. You work until you die.
Yeah, and so they're like, you're going to be there, specific orders not to die. Like, the guards, because usually the people that are dying there are due to poor conditions, starvation, and poor treatment. Mm-hmm. And so he's sending her there specifically not to die, but living through all this torturous environment. So as she's getting shipped out to her little camp, guess who's watching her leave? Who? Guess who's on the rooftop watching her leave, guys? It's Arabin standing right next to Farron, watching her leave.
Skeevy motherfucker.
They were both together, and Farron looks over, and he's like, so why did you do that? Why'd you set her up? Oh, God, I'm so mad at him. I'm so mad at him. And Arabin has the audacity. He's like, honestly, I just don't like to share my things.
As if she is a piece of clothing that he does not want to get rid of. As if she is a possession of his.
That is so gross.
Actually, human piece of garbage. He is so
It's so
toxic.
Wild to me that people can view other human beings like that. Like, it's so jarring because this is a made-up character, but there's people like that in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all throughout history, people have been trying to own or be above other people.
And control people. So yeah, that was tragic, seeing who was actually behind setting them up. But Selena doesn't actually know that. Actually, during this time that she was waiting in the royal dungeon, she was like, they're going to come any minute. I heard them talking about it. Like, they should be here any minute, and hopefully they'll save me. But they never come. And she ends up getting shipped out, and she's in this little carriage. She's trapped in this carriage for like 2 weeks because it's a 2-week journey up to the camp. And she's in this carriage the entire time. They're getting pulled up there. She is beat up. She is mentally unwell, like curled up in a ball, just kind of like in a daze. Like, she's just a shell of a human being right now. And during one of their nights of camping on their trip up there, she actually looks out the window, and there is like this white stag outside of her window, which is something super uncommon because the king has basically banished and ordered any magical creature to be killed. So this was a super rare sight that she saw, and it was a symbol of the Lord of the North.
And the Lord of the North is actually originating from Terrasen, her home country. So it's like their symbolic creature of their country. So for her to look out and be seeing this, and she like looks out, and then the guards actually see it too, and she's like, run away, and the guards start shooting at it, and it gets away. But that gives her like this little kernel of hope that one day maybe there's going to be more for her. It's like this last little
push for her to keep going. And she does take it, and she's like, you know what? I'm not going to let them think that they broke me. I'm Selena Sardothian. And she stands up before they open the carriage, once they arrive to the camp, she stands up. She's waiting for them to open up the carriage doors, and she says, I'm Selena Sardothian, and I will not be afraid.
Oh, full body chills.
Oh, gosh. I am just so sad about
Sam.
I say
it's Selena Sardothian, but
Sardothian is how I say it.
Leave us what you say in the comments.
Oh, yeah, tell us.
You said leave us.
Don't tell me anything, because I won't listen.
But no, is that not the most full body chills moment? Like, just that little kernel of hope just to get her through what she's about to endure, which we will get into in our next podcast next week. We will start Throne of Glass.
Yes, and that's where things are really going to start picking up. You're really going to be getting some plot lines here, and I hope that you guys stuck it through with this one and taking a peek with us next week.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and give some final thoughts about this whole book, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
thinking that was such a good idea.
That was a good idea.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Anyways, so my final thought is, would you still read this in the order that you read it? Because reading the series started with this one first. You read it differently, right?
No, so I read it first whenever I read it initially.
Like the series?
Yeah, when I started the series initially. And I loved it, especially...
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why did you read it first? Why did you read Assassin's Blade first?
I was looking on TikTok, per usual.
Right.
And I looked at a bunch of people's recommendations about how they read it, whether they read it first, whether they read it third, whether some people read it fourth even. And I can see the benefit I truly can see the benefit of like the element of surprise, like for like little clues and stuff that you're learning, like reading it third or fourth. I decided to read it first because a couple people were describing it as like reading it first is like the most romantic way to read it. Like you learn about Selena in these little like snippets, and then through her journey, you start to see these characters, some of the characters that are written in these stories come back into the plot, and then you start to see like even little tiny subtext. Like I'm reading Air of Fire right now. I'm aggressively reading through them.
She's a reader.
I can't help myself. And there's like little tiny lines about stuff about I'm not gonna say it now, but like it'll say this character from this land did this, and you're like, oh my gosh, is that from Assassin's Blade? Just like these little hints of like, it feels like all the strings are coming together. Like it feels like you get the beginning and then you see all these little tethers coming together throughout the book. So I loved that.
Yeah.
However, I think...
Yeah, I had different feelings, mostly because I just came off of the Akatar train. So I was like, that's all I could think about. Silver Flames. I was like, God, I just need more of that. And like reading this book, it didn't hook me. I'm going to be honest. So that was for me like the biggest pushback for me to reading this. Like as a new reader, I want something that's going to engulf me and make me like wrapped into this story. And reading this, it took me so long. It's not a big book, but it took me so long to get through because I was like, so
just like ready for
boring.
And every time you get to like an exciting part in one of the books, it feels like that story ends and then you start this slow trek into another little short story.
Exactly.
I get that. I do get that. I want to ask your opinion on this after you've finished the series. And like especially like getting into like the last couple books like Kingdom of Ash and stuff and like Tower of Dawn even and Empire of Storms, all that stuff. Like I want to ask your opinion after that.
Does it really make that much of a difference, you think? Reading the full series versus or like
I will say I don't want to give anything away, but this is exciting for you guys. If you're reading along or even listening along and you're like, this is okay, like it's not the best book I've ever read. Certain characters and themes in this book play their way in small little bits throughout the rest of the 7-book series or the 8-book series. I mean, it was heavy and emotional for me reading it and finding little snippets of what happened in Assassin's Blade come to play and come to fruition in Kingdom of Ash. That's why I loved it. However, not yucking anyone's yum. If you read it third or fourth and you loved it and you feel passionately about that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think Sarah J. Maas, even on her website, recommended reading it third.
Yeah.
But again, personal
choice.
Preference, your choice. Do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever your friends suggest. Do that. That's just my personal opinion. But I want to ask you at the end of it what you think about it.
You can do that. I think that's fair. I think it's going to be good to also wrap up just our whole thoughts of what do you think the purpose of this book was? Was it just to give more background or was it to give you more foreshadows, do you think?
I don't want to give anything away.
See, like that's what I'm trying to think right now. I'm like, what was the point of this? Like that's how I feel reading it first.
There's a lot of foreshadowing in this book. There's a lot of character development. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are going to come back into play. Yeah. Things that you don't think were important are going to probably come back into play, which is why like I've been trying to be careful about questions that I ask because I want to like prompt good questions, but I also don't want it to be like, oh, well, obviously that's going to be something, you know? I'm interested to hear what you guys think, though. If we'll post some like maybe questions on our Instagram or TikTok and like see what you guys think. Like, what do you think about the book? Have you read the books before? What order do you recommend? Stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias, and we will take a peek with you next week. Bye.